Listeners, it's one of my favorite times of the year, where the Roanoker highlights our annual 40 Under 40 feature in our Jan-Feb issue. It's our 5th year of the feature, which means we've had the honor of including 200 dynamic young professionals doing incredible things for our community. From small businesses, arts and culture, law firms, healthcare, education, and more, there is simply nothing more inspiring than seeing so many work for positive change in our region. In our very first segment of the first episode for our second season, I'm pleased to welcome Nick Guacheta, Director of Business Development at TXTUR. He is not only in our class of 2024, but is this year's cover star. Thank you, Nick, for being on today.
Thank you very much for having me.
And so we're doing a little cover reveal. So this is you on our cover.
All right. I look very sophisticated.
You do
That's
look very
good.
sophisticated. Yeah. And so we loved everything about this because we thought you were the perfect person for this year's cover. Not only are you a leader in local business, thanks to your work at TXTUR, providing handmade furniture right here in Roanoke, but you're also an important, diverse voice in our community, as well as an award-winning artist giving back through many different ways in all of your roles that you have in our community. So we love this photo of you comfortably seated at TXTUR, I'm sure in one of their handcrafted chairs. Yeah. And of course, wearing a handmade Roanoke shirt that showcases our love of local, which you wore today.
I'm actually wearing today, yeah.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, I have just a handful of TXTUR shirts I try to wear every day that I'm at work.
I love it. You should promote what you love,
exactly,
right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we love our love of local. So we really appreciate you doing that and showcasing all the great things that are happening in our city. So
again, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations on being in our class of 2024, 40
Thank you so
under 40.
much, yeah.
So let me read your quick bio before we get started so listeners can marvel at your resume. At 31 years old, Nick is the Executive Director of Sales and Development at TXTUR with expertise in sales, marketing, logistics, and scalable systems dynamics, and has contributed to interior designs for prominent Roanoke institutions. In his role, he has led major sales initiatives with revenue growth exceeding $2 million in less than a year. He is a Roanoke Catholic School graduate and Radford University alumnus, where he majored in environmental science. He is also an artist and serves as 110 committee member at the Taubman Museum of Art and as a board of director at the Grandin Theater. And I hear you even got some stand-up comedian experience.
That's true, yeah.
So before I ask you to tell a bunch of jokes, do you mind sharing a bit about your background? Are you native to Roanoke?
Yeah, born and raised here. So yeah, I was born in 1991. If I'm correct, I think I was born at Community Hospital, so just a block or so away from where I work now. Lived here my entire life. I went to Roanoke Catholic, for 13 years. Moved away briefly, just right up the street to Radford University, and then moved back, and I've just been here. I don't think I'm stuck here per se. I like to travel and whatnot, but I've never really felt the impulse to move away from Roanoke.
We've got everything you need here.
Yeah, I really enjoy it, and a lot of the folks from my graduating class who did move away have all moved back.
Really?
So
that's funny.
I think sometimes people do have the impulse to leave, for a while, and then they kind of get into their late 20s and they're like, why did I leave Roanoke? Yeah, again, it's a great home base and a great place to really do your important project.
Absolutely. And so you have some other experience on your resume, including a work in healthcare.
Yeah.
And so tell us a little bit about that. Like, what led you from school to where you were to where you are now?
Sure. So, I mean, it's not a story of strategy, more so of just stumbling
That's
forward,
all right.
I think. Yeah. So when I was in high school, I was fairly decent in science classes. And I think, a lot of people, the advice they get about a smart career path is STEM. So I went to college. I majored in biology with a concentration in environmental science. That career path was a bit murky and abstract to me. So instead, I kind of pivoted into the medical field, working in pathology. I was just a lab technician, essentially, and like a lab assistant. For Quest Diagnostics at Memorial Hospital. So I was like a physician's assistant.
That's important work, man. Everybody's got a role to play.
Well, yeah, and it was really fascinating work, particularly because after working there for a couple of years, there was COVID, and we were the pathology gross room. So I mean, it was very interesting working for that entire kind of like 16-month crest of the pandemic. We had to wear like just way more gear than we were typically wearing. And again, tensions were high and the work was very particular. Some members of the, hospital staff were able to kind of come and go and change their hours a little bit, but we were, our hours and responsibilities were only expanding.
Yeah.
So it was a very stressful time and an exhausting time. And I did like it, but I think in contrast to what I do now, and I guess what I've always kind of subconsciously yearned to do, it was far too rigid. And monotonous. Every day was just the same protocols over and over and over again. So after kind of the exhaustion of the pandemic, I knew I wanted to leave that position and do something else. And so I had my feelers out for what that thing was.
Well, it clearly worked. So you ended up at TXTUR. And, what is it about this role that you sort of landed in? Like, what drew you to it, first of all?
So when I was working at the hospital, I went to Black Dog Salvage to like window shop, which anyone who's coming through town should do.
You could spend hours in there.
Exactly. So I went there and I saw what most people would call a wishbone chair. TXTUR calls the V chair. Sitting there, and it was like, a beam of light was coming through the window and hitting it or whatever. And so I walk up to it. I'm like, this is a beautiful chair. And then it has like this very kind of contemporary tag on it that says, TXTUR, made in Roanoke. And my imagination just kind of ran wild with like what this company was, because I did not know something like this existed in Roanoke. And that was, again, kind of progressive looking in their branding, and again the product was beautiful and it was built here. And so I said, I've got to work for this company. I very much want to. So I wrote up my resume, I applied, and did not hear anything back. And then that's it. That's the end of that part of the story. And so like a year passes essentially, and I had been working kind of for myself for about a year, and then my father was like, you have too much downtime, apply for another job.
As a parent is want to do.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was like, well, I applied to this furniture company last year, let me apply again. But this time I printed my resume and I walked in to the front door, ran into some important people, and they said, come back and, interview or whatnot. I didn't understand what the company was. I'd never worked for a furniture company. I didn't know what roles existed in that. So when I applied, I simply pitched myself as a generalist. And I said, I don't know what I'm going to do here. You don't know what I'm going to do here.
Were you going to make furniture?
Exactly. I literally, and I did not know. And
yeah.
I was just like, if you let me come hang out for 2 weeks, we'll figure it out together. And so after, my little probation period, they hired me on as an assistant sales representative of something like this. So I was essentially the assistant to Lisa Sloboda, who's now retiring from the company, but was our head designer and salesperson. And so that's how I got my foot in the door.
I love that you didn't take no for an answer. You just knew one way or another you were going to be there.
Yeah. I mean, like it was really the only company that I was willing to work for in the area, essentially. Again, and I had been fiddling with my own projects with like kind of self-employment for a year, which was going fine. It was just in real estate, there's a lot of lulls. There's a lot of time where you're not doing stuff. And so I was like, well, I can fiddle with something. And again, it was the only company that I was entertaining, being employed by someone else again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would say it worked out, because $2 million in a year that is not a small thing. I mean, that's really amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, again, it's the whole team that's responsible for that. And obviously me being in the right place at the right time with pivoting from just online sales to having that brick and mortar, which we now realize is radically important with furniture.
I mean, it's such a beautiful space. And actually, so let's talk about TXTUR for a minute. Let's brag on them. Tell us, what do they do? Because they're building handmade furniture right here in town.
Correct.
Yeah.
Sure. So it starts with another company called Frank Chervan. Frank Chervan it was technically founded in Ohio about 85 years ago, but long ago relocated to Southwest Virginia, and then about 15 or 16 years ago, I think, pulled all of its organs into Roanoke proper. And they are a white label commercial manufacturer. They started in kind of chair frames, then into upholstered chairs, and then very recently into a much broader catalog of furniture. But what these folks do, all these super skilled craftspeople who live here in Roanoke, they produce really, really great furniture for maybe like a sandals resort or for a hospital or for a retirement home of some sort. So I think probably it's fair to say virtually every American has interfaced with Frank Chervan product.
It sounds like.
It's just the name is not on the product. So about 3 years ago, the president of that company, Greg Terrell, whose grandfather was Frank Chervan, decided to create a direct-to-consumer brand called TXTUR that's infused with all sorts of other interesting missions. But it was really about, again, can we bring kind of commercial standards when people are about to invest money in a very strategic way, like a hotel or a hospital or anything like that does, and they expect product to last a really long time, et cetera? Can we bring that quality to residential furniture, and again, along with some other interesting missions. But so again, TXTUR is that organ. It's custom furniture. It's made to order furniture. It is kind of a two-node operation where consumers walk in the door and, I'm this kind of superficial intermediate, but there's just a giant plant of craftspeople right down the road. And, that's who you're really dealing with. There's not all these intermediate steps. There's not, there's not cargo ships or warehouses or retailers or anything like that. So you're buying, $10,000 sofas for a fraction of the price.
Right. And you're really helping with the sustainable efforts too.
Correct. Yeah. So that's more so the interesting, strange attractor to the company.
Super interesting.
Yeah. So Greg Terrell, again, our president and CEO, he was at a furniture conference of some sort, which I imagine is horribly boring. And he was there, and they gave him some sort of anecdote about how many tons and tons of furniture are just kind of put in landfills every year. And again, I think in commercial furniture, the rules are a little bit different. People don't, they want things to be able to be repaired, et cetera, et cetera. So he said, what if we can figure out a company that kind of closes that material loop? And so what we do with our furniture is there's other furniture companies that I think build in a different way where they're kind of meant to fall apart in a way. Either there's some sort of, it's either about cost or it's about literally like, hey, feel good because this will decay in the earth very soon, something like this. Mm-hmm. We take a slightly different tact where we build to a very, very high standard. We essentially guarantee the frames in perpetuity. And then we also engineer these products to be disassembled and reconstituted by us in the future. So again, kind of the big interesting character of the company is that if you purchase a TXTUR sofa and have it for 10 years, you can provoke us to buy it back from you for a type of store credit where we're the direct point of recycling.
Yeah, I love that though, because then it's not going into a landfill somewhere.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. And so it's clear you're pretty passionate about this. You're lighting up. If you're watching YouTube, you can see Nick kind of like, oh man. And so what is it about this TXTUR, the company, the family that really inspires you, makes you passionate about this job?
The company and the family. I guess I'll perceive that as two different questions slightly. The company, it's the synecdoche of the entire story has to do with that beam of sunlight hitting the V chair, a couple years ago, probably. Good, yeah. It's just, I've always loved aesthetics in general. I love interior design. I love furniture. And, it's this company intersection of, again, this kind of the progressiveness that spoke to me simply through the branding, the incredible quality and craftsmanship of this beautiful chair that was sitting there, and then that made in Roanoke tag of it's built right here. And I think, unfortunately, I don't have it fully articulated in my mind, but I think we're living in a moment where we realize that a lot of building left this country, or at least left certain communities previously, and we thought that would be a good thing, and maybe in certain dimensions it's a good thing, but I think we're now realizing there's a taste in our mouth that this definitely should exist here again. And so, again, playing a part in having Roanokers build beautiful things in business models that are more attentive and wiser is a fascinating project, and I'm so happy to have been a part of it for a couple of years. The Terrells are a very fascinating family. I know several of them, but Greg is the one who I know better than the others. My family is also kind of a family of entrepreneurs in a much different way. It's definitely fascinating to me when businesses are handed down through the family. I think on average, that's typically not a good thing in a way. Like statistically, I think a lot of the times businesses decay. In their situation, the business has only kind of become more and more robust and expanded itself, which is, very fascinating. Greg is a very interesting and admirable boss. He has no problem rolling his sleeves up and getting his hands dirty in any way. He's, I don't know, it's been such an amazing learning opportunity, both in technical ways, but also when you're around people with certain types of passions and work ethic, it like leaches into your own spirit.
Yeah, it's easy to follow a leader who does the work too.
Exactly.
Who leads by example.
This is a slightly on a different note, but I also get to sit in on the Grandin board meetings. I'm on the board, although there's people who are far more
We're going to talk about that.
active than me. But after my first few months going there, I thought I so badly wished that people who were going to college or something like that could just get shoved into these situations just to be a fly on the wall.
Yeah.
Because just listening to really smart, passionate people talk for a little bit, I literally was like, I feel more stimulated here than I did sitting in lectures for, semesters or whatever. But it's like that working at the plant. And Greg is definitely probably the pinnacle of this, but there's all sorts of members on the team. It's again, such a privilege and so stimulating to be near them and learn from them, again, both in a technical sense and in their knowledge about how the company and business in general function, but also, again, just like, the goodness that kind of springs
you're
from
giving
that
Roanokers jobs and you're bringing that back into the community. I mean, what an amazing thing. And so I actually like to read a piece of your nomination because your colleagues were the ones who nominated you. And it's so clear. I can't read the whole thing because it's super long because that's how impressive they found you. But it's so obvious how respected and appreciated you are as part of that team. So, quote, Nick's level of hard work and dedication is unparalleled at any age. You don't have to ask anything of him. He takes it on himself and gives his all to do his best, be the best, and support his team and company with everything he has. It may seem strange to use the word wisdom with someone so young, but Nick is truly wise beyond his years. He grasps incredibly complex ideas and processes with ease, and in the ultimate sign of wisdom, he is able to teach and relate these to others, bringing them alongside in the ultimate sign of real leadership. So you're clearly learning a lot, and you're applying it to how you interact with other people, whether in the community or your team. So I love that those things are trickling down to you as well. All the things that you've talked about are already on your resume. They're already in your leadership skills.
I hope so. Yeah,
absolutely.
As much as I can absorb from these folks, it's a tremendous blessing.
Yeah, I love that point about you wish you could take college students and just like put them in the room to listen, because I feel the same. I'm a board member at the Jefferson Center, and I still feel brand new to it. But I go in those rooms and I'm like, I don't say a word, but I listen, and I'm like I pick up so much information, and I love these smart, wonderful, dedicated, passionate people talking about how to improve something.
It's really amazing. Again, like the stint for the Grandin board is 3 years with an option to extend to 6, and it's kind of funny just because I feel like unless you're a very special person, it would take that 6th year to hit stride. Just because I'm sitting there and I'm like so intimidated, I feel dwarfed by all their incredible ideas and whatever. I'm always
it's good to know that imposter syndrome is good at any age for all of us, no matter who you are. That's a good thing to know. And so let's talk about your community involvement. You've talked about the Grandin Theater. In addition to your work at the Tallman and the Grandin Theater, you've also been a participant in Open Studio Roanoke. You have held exhibitions in town, and then you received the Blue Award at the Bath County Art Show in 2023. You've also been the recipient of 2 Roanoke City Arts Commissions in 2022 and 2023. Tell us about all of this. I don't even know where to start, because how wonderful for you to be such an important part of the community. In terms of art, let's talk about your art first. Okay. What's your preferred medium?
I'm just an oil painter.
Okay, just.
Well, it's true. It's true.
Marks. Oh my gosh.
Sometimes a lot of
Can't
artists
draw a stick figure, and he's over here just.
A lot of people describe themselves as, I think, multidisciplinary artists. Is the term. I just oil paint. I just oil paint. I oil paint in black and white only, and paint in grayscale. It's just something that I'm, again, still kind of practicing. Yeah.
Is that something that you picked up in high school or have always been doing, or?
No. I've always been a creative, and I was always been a doodler, essentially. So and again, it's categorically, I was not a kind of structured drawer or anything like that. But in high school, for example, if there was a t-shirt design or something, most likely it was me designing it, something like that. But I didn't actually get into painting at all until maybe something like 2 years ago, also a little bit before TXTUR.
And you're already doing all these things and won awards, man.
It's kind of funny. I'll circle back around to that comment, but that was another kind of provocation of the pandemic. I had a friend, like I said, who moved back to Roanoke from DC. His mother is a teacher and had this giant bundle of art supplies. And so I was working for myself, so I had all this free time. He had just moved back and was kind of on hiatus from working. And so we were hanging out all the time. And he was like, wouldn't it be funny if I brought my mom's elementary school art supplies and we,
and that's
painted
how it started.
Something. Yeah. So, we painted a few things, and I was just like, I feel like I'm pretty good at painting. He was just like, yeah, you've taken to it like a fish to water or whatnot. And then I kept fiddling with it in that way.
That's so cool.
Yeah. But as far as being able to kind of get some awards in a relatively short amount of time, it's definitely something that I would, like other things in my life, want to kind of push people off that ledge to do, because there's so much that is really just about trying. You know what I mean? Like,
I love that it's wonderful for artists who have been doing this for their whole life, but I love that you literally were like, I think I want to give this a try. And then you did it. Like, you didn't start this from when you were a little kid, or, it proves that you can do it at any age.
It's true. You can do it at any age. And it's not just about the practice of painting, which you obviously need to do and should do. But, there's probably a lot of very, very skilled painters in our community who just have piles of panels and canvases in some room, and they never push them out to something, to a different platform or anything like that. So again, that's another part of it where I would say, if it's something that you're interested in doing, really give it a whirl. And if you give it a whirl, I'm confident that something that you're excited about will manifest.
Yeah, and Roanoke, we have a great arts and culture community, and really a lot of wonderful artists who open their arms to new artists and want to help inspire and motivate. And I think that's so cool.
And I'm not sure if it's like this in every city, but in Roanoke in particular, the arts community, it's almost, you can almost describe it as, it's like the fraternity and the friendliness and the empathy and the assistance almost trumps the art. It's like that better categorizes this group of folks rather than the art, which they're all still doing or whatever. It's just they're so overwhelmingly friendly and polite. And that's really one of the things that initially provoked me. Is I just had a friend named Sarah Kirk Parcell, who maybe she's
wonderful.
A very prominent painter.
Wonderful artist.
And I was just kind of painting in my living room, and I had been dabbling in black and white photography before that. And so she was the one who really pushed me. She just had a space that she was using as a gallery at the moment, and she was like, you should really paint a body of something that I can display and get in here or whatnot. But again, it's not only that they'll embrace their arms open to you, they'll literally grab your wrist and yank you into the community.
I love that so much, though. And it's so wonderful, because in 40 Under 40, so one of the things that I ask of all the winners is to give me a quote about what they love about Roanoke. And I swear 9 out of 10 times people talk about the community, regardless of what industry they're in, or where they're kind of found themselves in a specific level. Everyone talks about how wonderful the community is, and open arms and welcoming. And it's really heartening to hear that and to hear from that. So in terms of your art, like, what inspires you? Do you walk around town and find inspiration like everywhere you go?
I wish I could say yes, because it sounds, nicer, but
do you walk around TXTUR and go, I could paint that. I could,
Not exactly. I feel like I do. I am, I guess, possessed by inspiration from, just kind of navigating through my daily life. But I wouldn't say that that's what strikes my painting exactly. Mostly, if I'm daydreaming, it's usually about texture, kind of. But with painting, again, I don't consider myself an artist, and in particularly because I don't. The work I do isn't infused with any sort of, there's no narrative, there's no lecturing, which I'm not trying to say is bad at all. It's just I'm not there yet, as a practitioner. What I do is I like interesting images. It's really as superficial as that.
That's all
right. So when I'm painting, typically I'm a portrait artist. I like dramatic, mysterious, edgy, smoldering faces.
Okay.
And that's typically...
a lot of good keywords there.
That's typically what I paint. I'm also, a collector of paintings. They're literally all portraits. I don't have anything else. And that's not even it's not like a rule of mine. It's just spontaneous,
just how it
kind
happened.
of. Yeah. And that's just what I paint right now. I do hope that eventually I'll kind of mature to the level where there's a larger mission in a body of work that I create. But for now, it's just about, I really enjoy, again, like the drama of the human face. And so that's what I slap together.
Cool. What I really like about your attitude is that you're open to growth. You're open to the evolution and the progression of your own journey in artistry, right? And so you're not like, this is what I'm going to do. You're already looking for opportunities to grow. It's sort of, I interviewed John Murrell last year, and so talking about, he started out as one thing and now he's doing murals all across the region, you know, and it's really amazing to see his growth. So I love that you're wide open to that opportunity.
Yeah. And again, he's another example of someone who's been very polite and friendly. I've only met him one time, but in our brief interaction, he was immediately like, you know, let's hang out. Let's
ready to yank you to the next.
Yeah, he was just like, he's like, let's get lunch and talk. And, you know, again, everybody's so friendly.
Yeah, I love that about the community, though. And so you actually have a show coming up later this year in July. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah. At Alexander Heath Contemporary.
Which is a beautiful space.
Yeah, I think, you know, in the entire region, I think they're probably the most remarkable platform for kind of contemporary art. So
I saw John and Sarah's show there last year, and it was stunning.
It's great. Again, everything that they do is great. Everything Ed does, and Rachel too. But it's very intimidating. It's a daunting thing to do. I still have quite a bit of runway, and I'm trying to be a bit loose with it and not overthink it, and just kind of have fun with what I produce and show there. But it's definitely, it's one of those things. It was a goal, I suppose. It was a goal of mine, and it's very interesting to actually be approaching its execution. I guess ever since, I'm not even sure how long they've been in operation, but just for quite a long time, I thought if I could have an exhibition here, that would be quite a thing. Yeah.
So if you don't mind telling me about your experience with the Taubman, because you're on this 110 committee. Yeah. What does that entail?
So that's actually an interesting question, only because it's currently going through a bit of a restructuring, and we should be briefed on our new function shortly.
Cool.
But it's, I guess, somewhat old. If I'm not mistaken, what 110 is a state or multi-state network of art institutions, and you pay a monthly fee to be a member of this institution, and it's just meant to tether the community to these art institutions. So what the 110 committee was a group of young professionals who's were tasked with doing monthly events that would which would make that membership more attractive, essentially. So, you know, when I joined, you know, we've helped do a bunch of projects. The one project that I kind of spearheaded was, there is I think a biannual exhibition that the Taubman does, where they get all Virginia artists and do this really big installation. And so, again, just something to punch up kind of different things and get younger people in the door. We also got a collection of Virginia poets to do a curated poem for each piece.
Oh, beautiful.
We stitched that together into an automated audio tour. And then we also had kind of a gala and presentation,
that's
essentially.
That's a lot.
So folks came in the evening.
How cool.
There's a lot of like heavy hitter poets that came through and worked on that. And so you could come at night and have your wine and listen to these poets, and then other visitors who's coming through the exhibition anytime could, you know, throw their headphones on.
What a wonderful way to celebrate that.
Yeah, so that was our deal. And then sometimes things were even more energetic, in the sense of it was just like, it's a masquerade, come through, you know, have fun at the museum. But yeah, that was really what our original mission was. And then a lot of the folks who were in the museum that were governing that have gotten different opportunities around the country. And so the cards kind of reshuffled in a way where such a new group of folks came in. They said, let's figure this out again. We just kind of want to reorganize a little bit. So again, I think they're kind of changing our parameters a little bit. I think probably in a fun way, but we should get briefed on that.
No, it sounds exciting. Sometime. You'll have a pretty exciting 2024.
I hope so.
Sounds like.
Yeah, it's always been fun.
Yeah, between Grandin and then your show, and golly. So in terms of artists in the area, so for artists in the area who might not have been doing it since they grew up, who have listened to this and go, I'm 50. I want to learn how to, like, what advice would you give to aspiring artists who want to learn what you do or be more a part of the community?
Okay, so being a part of the community is easy.
Easy.
That part is not a problem. You can literally go either visit any gallery and ask that question. I want to be a part of this art community, and that person will interact with you. They will give you references, etc. You can go on to Instagram. You can go on to the Roanoke Arts Commission. I think we're still in the thick of Year of the Artist through the Arts Commission. You can reach out to Doug Jackson. Again, reach out to anybody and they will shove you right into the network.
I know Doug personally. He will definitely drag you into wherever you need to be, wherever he thinks it's perfect for you.
Exactly. Yeah. So being a part of the community is not complicated at all. And then I would just simply say, if you want to be platformed in some way, maybe that first step will just kind of, it's like a slippery slope of just getting right involved. But again, other than that, it's just finding the right opportunities. And again, really just follow through with it.
Yeah.
Actually do it. Yeah. Get, paint or sculpt or weave or do whatever you want to do. Have, it sounds sterile to call it an inventory, but have, have what you want to show, and go to those right people and ask kindly. And I cannot imagine anyone turning a person away.
That's not who we are as a Roanoke community.
It's true.
Man, that's so cool. So again, thank you again for your time today. We really appreciate you being on the podcast. Is there anything else you'd like to add? I mean, we're going to talk about your 40 under 40 for sure in the next issue. But anything else you wanted to add, whether about your role at TXTUR, anything else going on?
The only thing that I'll plug is definitely if you've not been to Fire Station 1,
I want to live in that building.
Go. We have a terrific furniture gallery there. If you've not interacted or experienced the furniture, do. If you've not been to Stock Bistro, absolutely go. We have an incredible chef, incredible cooks. We have incredible menu, incredible bartenders. If you've not stayed for a staycation, if you have folks that are coming into the area, stay at the hotel. And again, I'm a big Roanoke advocate, I suppose. I'll plug Bloom, I'll plug, the Grandin. I love the Grandin also, although again, I'm kind of affiliated there.
Not biased at all.
But even if I wasn't affiliated with Fire Station 1, go.
It's amazing
really cool
to see what they've done with that building in the last couple of years, really. I mean, it's blown up. And so is it true that if I go into Stock and they're busy or their bar's full or whatever, I can go sit on the furniture with my glass of wine?
Even if you're the only person there, which is be strange.
Every time I see people sitting there, I'm like, that is the coolest. And also I'm terrified I'm going to drop red wine all over that couch.
So the two comments is that, the showroom is purposefully kind of an estuary for the bistro. So please come out, have the fun of being a bit isolated, and it's more intimate. You're just with your pals. You're not exactly an earshot of other people. It's nice. Also, all the furnitureessentially cannot be destroyed. Everything is Krypton performance fabric. Exactly. So I mean, you really have to be there with a vendetta to try to destroy the furniture.
Well, I'm not going after it. So, exactly. But that's good to know that I won't.
Definitely. When I go to Stock, me and my friends always retreat to the showroom.
But I love it though, because we were there at some point for dinner and there was a group of people sitting around one of your tables and they're eating from Stock, and it was so interesting to see this restaurant experience tied into a storefront. And it's great to see that those businesses are coming together to work so well together to promote each other, in the same space.
Yeah, again, Stock and the hotel are organs of the showroom, and everything was designed to have that synergy essentially. And our showroom's not a common looking showroom.
No,
it's not stuffy. It's not like you're eating, at a Best Buy near a laptop.
You're not going to get hit by a salesperson the moment you step to the door and go, no.
It is unique in that way. And so you'll feel very comfortable eating out in the showroom.
It's a gorgeous space. Congratulations to you and of course the entire team. It's just such a beautiful way to enjoy furniture, and the fact that it's right here in Roanoke, handmade, and that it's sustainable, all those great things about it. I mean,
absolutely.
What better way to celebrate the Roanoke community than with that?
Yeah. It's my last little plug there's
do
also,
it.
if you want to tour the plant, you can do that.
Ooh, cool.
Yeah, you can reach out to anyone on the team and we can help organize that. The plant's a quarter-mile long. There's over 200 folks working there. And unless you've ever seen something like that before, you just cannot imagine how fascinating it is.
Very
But
cool.
yeah, there's 200 plus of your neighbors in there building very cool things.
That's awesome. Well, you got to support your friends and neighbors for sure. Nick, thank you so much for being on From Print to Podcast today. We really appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, and congratulations again on being in our 40 Under 40 class of 2024. We're really excited for you and to be on our cover. Thanks for letting you be our cover star for, the next couple of months. We really appreciate it. Hope you get lots of people saying, what is that chair? I want to sit in that chair. I want to buy that chair.
Yes.
Perfect. And so again, you can listen to more as we kick off our second season in this rest of this first episode. And we're going to share more about the amazing people doing such good things for the community. And again, thank you to Nick for being on our cover. And listeners, there is so much more to come. You can learn more about Nick Guacheta's role in our community, as well as meet the rest of our 40 Under 40 class of 2024 in our latest issue on newsstands now, or you can always go over to theroanoker.com and read more about them there.